Folks, it's another episode of Big Boy Pants Golf, YouTube's hottest golf channel. I got Jake the Man Span.
What is happening, folks?
And we've got a serious issue here. LIV Golf, heading into LIV London, has a serious Sihwan Kim problem.
They have Kimitis. It's scary, guys. It's a scary disease right now, and it needs to get cleaved and fixed before it infects somebody else.
I looked up his scores, and in 8 tournaments this year on LIV, he's got 2 rounds in the 60s and 3 rounds in the 80s. So this guy, in my opinion, has 6 rounds left as a professional golfer, period. I'm not talking about just on LIV. There's no tour out there that's going to have a guy who's averaging 76 or 77 playing and competing on their tour. You're making no money. It might all be over for Sihwan Kim.
Yeah, because if he really is playing like at this level, and I really don't know if it's the bright lights are just destroying him, but he's had enough time now. He's had enough time. He's had a year and a half to figure out the bright lights. You know, I get it. You're going from the Asian tour during COVID years where there's literally nobody on the course other than the players and the caddies. I get that. But he's had a year and a half to figure out the LIV format, what it's like to have fans in front of you. And he's still not getting it. He had a great, he did really well at the PGA Championship. I thought that he was going to figure it out, and he hasn't yet.
By really well, that means he made the cut and then finished 62nd placed or tied for 62nd. He's basically, you can rely on him in the 48th spot on LIV 70 or 80% of the time. I think one time he was 47th just because Sam Horsfield had to sub in for someone who was injured. This guy is not just 48th. If there were other people in there, he'd be further down because he's in the 48th spot by a good chunk. There's
actually 48 players on LIV plus the substitutes that have popped in there and tried to get points. And guess where he is on the point standings? 50th. 50th. It's a 48-man league and you're 50th in rankings.
Do you think moving forward, because of this Sihwan Kim issue, LIV Golf imposes a Sihwan Kim rule? Like if you finish dead last in 3 events or 2 events in a row or something along those lines where you can like in softball, you got the 10-run lead rule. There's got to be some point like a mercy rule where, hey, they take you to the side and say, this isn't for you.
Yeah, we love you. You're cute. You're cuddly, but you ain't cutting it. We got to take you out back and old yeller you. That's what needs to happen, folks.
Andy Ogletree, guys racking up wins on the Asian tour. Why wouldn't they just kind of swap them out or something at some point? Because are we going to really watch 6 more events with Sihwan Kim averaging 12 over par after 3 rounds?
I guess they're going to. Honestly, I'd rather have Kieran Vincent in there because Kieran Vincent, he's Scott Vincent's brother. Throw him in there. He's done pretty well. Andy Ogletree to me fits in more with the Crushers, but you know what I'm saying. It's just get somebody else in there. Yeah, hell, I'll go play for the Ironheads. I'll probably shoot better than he will.
You can't finish worse than 48th.
I can't. So throw me in there. And at least there'll be an excuse if I screw up and screw it back. 'Cause I'm not a pro golfer.
Looking over Sihwan Kim's performance this year also had us wondering, hey, how should we grade the other players' performances up to now? Because we still got 6 tournaments left. And there's a lot of guys that have overperformed. And you know who we're thinking about? Free the Gooch. And there's a lot of guys who are maybe expectedly not doing so great. How does the scenario change? Let's analyze the status quo and where we think we're going in the future. Let's start. Obviously, we've already covered him extensively. Sihwan Kim, he's obviously bottom of the barrel. I don't see how he pulls out of this nosedive, not just in terms of staying on with LIV Golf, but in terms of continuing on as a professional golfer.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's pretty much lights out Dunzo. You're right. This guy needs to start looking for pro shop jobs because, yeah, he could probably go back to the Asian tour, but do you really think he wants to waste what little nest egg he has from his $120,000 from last place? Do you think he wants to waste that by trying to chase a dream that he doesn't really fit in with anymore?
I mean, when people Google his name and Google LIV, and he just keeps coming up on the bottom, it's a hard sell. It's an awkward story. Let's move to the guy right up the ladder from a number 47 spot. I believe we'll both agree, Chase Koepka.
Oh, God. Look, I love me some Chase. We all loved the Adelaide moment. The Adelaide moment was special. And you know what's sad is that out of several of these guys here, he actually did get a couple of moments that he didn't look absolute poo-poo. You know, he's finished in the top 25 twice. Well, Liv does it kind of weird to where they don't actually, if you tie at a spot, they still find a way to sort you from 1 to 48. There is no tie for 20th in their points divisions for the events. You might finish tied for 4th, but they still find a way to like divvy it out to where if there's like 8 guys tied for 4th, there's still a 4 through 11. I don't know how they do it, but there is a way they split it up like that. I don't like that, by the way. But it's not the point. Chase Koepka's had some moments. And he was, I think, very integral in being able to sign and bring over Brooks Koepka. Hey, look, we signed your brother. Hey, look, we're taking care of your little brother who was struggling on the Challenge Tour. Hey, look, your brother doesn't have to worry about eating anymore. Chase Koepka was, in many ways, I think, a tool to be able to sign the big whale, which is Brooks Koepka.
The Koepka brothers are basically the movie Twins.
Yeah, that's true. I want you guys remember the movie Twins, Danny DeVito, Arnold Schwarzenegger. You got 2 brothers. One of them is the stud nugget, and one of them is not. And
it's odd. It's odd. They're so different in like size.
Yeah, it's like you could clearly tell that Brooks got the sandwiches, and Chase got the gruel.
Well, you also think like if there are like 2 eggs in a nest, usually one bird pushes the other egg out.
Oh, dang.
But in this case, Brooks just ate all the food.
I think that's kind of what happened. And I mean, look, we're not hating on you, Chase. I think that Chase actually has pro caliber game. He's not Sihwan Kim. He's not somebody that the moment this is over, this year's over, his career is done. And I think Chase Koepka can find a way out of the relegation zone. But he needs to find a way to step it up. He needs to be a bit more consistent and needs to prove that he is not just there to make his brother happy.
Or to keep his brother playing there. They already got Brooks Koepka on there. Obviously, at this point, Brooks Koepka looks like a genius. Your game is returned with thunderous applause, tie for second at the Masters, winning the PGA Championship. Nothing but mad respect for this guy now from everyone. No one can say a bad word about him, even though everyone was trying to give him grief after the whole full swing video.
Chase is somebody who I seriously, even though he's down here at the bottom of the list right now, to me, I still wonder, is he somehow, even though he's not actually verbally protected as a player, is he still somewhat protected because of his status with his brother? I don't know. And I'm curious to find out what the result is.
James Piot or Graham McDowell? Who's worse?
Piot. And it's weird because Piot has a future, Graham McDowell has a past. And when I say this, Graham McDowell, I'm not hating on either of you guys. I'm a fan. I was rooting my butt off for you on U.S. Open qualifying, man. And then you bogeyed the last hole to miss out in the playoff. Actually, you bogeyed the last two holes to miss out in the playoff. And I was so mad for you, bro. But look, James Piot is the young kid. Graham McDowell has more opportunities to have name recognition value. Right, he's got Ryder Cup experience. He's got major experience. James Piot is the upstart, and honestly, him losing out and not being on LIV anymore is less of a blow to him than it is to Graham. Graham, it's more of a death sentence for his career, sort of, until he can find a way on the Champions Leagues, if they'll have him, because of his association with LIV.
So for me, that would almost round out my bottom 4. Give me another 2 or 3 names that you think are in the, probably let's call them the D League.
The D League. All right, this is going to be controversial, and don't smack me. Matty Wolff.
It's not controversial because no guy has come in with more expectations and underperformed as much as Matty Wolff.
To me, he's my most disappointing player. And look, he was great last year, but then we saw the moments of either, you can call it immaturity, you can call it chemical imbalance, you can call it needing a new prescription of pills, but we saw the moments, right, where, the head case moments happen where he snaps a putter in half, has to play an entire back 9 on the tour with a wedge. We see the moments where he has an injury at DC and misses the last day. We see the moments where he walks off at U.S. Open qualifying this year after the 6th hole, literally 6 holes in and walks off. Actually, or maybe it was second 2 holes. And the point is that he walked off super early. He's high enough up in the points right now to where he's pretty much safe for next season if he wants to stick around. But my big question to you and to everybody out there is, like, what's it going to take for him to get back to the Matty Wolff of early this season? Because even early this season, he was looking pretty solid. He had a 10th place finish, a 12th place finish. He was number 5 in the third event over at Orlando. Like, but I don't get it. Like, what's up with this dude? What can we do to help you, Matty Wolff? Because I'm a huge fan of your game, and I'm a huge fan of you. I was howling the same way everybody else was when you got that hole-in-one, the first hole-in-one on LIV Golf. But I don't know. I'm just disappointed because I can see that he's not wanted on his team. I can see that he doesn't want to be on his team. And more importantly, I just don't know where he belongs right now. He's like, to me, he's more confusing right now than Sihwan Kim. Because Sihwan Kim, we know where he's going. But Matty Wolff has way more potential as a player, as a man, and it doesn't make any sense.
I'm going to throw this out there. Martin Keimer's not exactly crushing it. I guess he's been injured for a bit as well. You also have guys like Bernd Wiesberger and Lee Westwood. Lee Westwood's in the 45th place right now in the individual point standings. We also have Jed Morgan and Abraham Answer. I think let's focus on that 43 down to 50 spot. These guys are all very much in contention to be relegated, except for obviously Lee Westwood. He's a captain, so he's on no matter what.
And Martin Keimer.
And Keimer, right. So then you always have that issue where you brought these guys into captain, but are they going to be playing captains?
Yeah. And that could be a whole different conversation. I mean, Lee Westwood's over 50 and not really looking like he's sharp. Now, he's looking sharper in the last few tournaments than he was at the beginning of the season. He came back looking a little rough to start the year out, but then he had the injury where he was out for, the event in Tulsa, which was, not a good sign for that guy. Because, again, 50 recovering from injury is not the same as 25 recovering from an injury.
Let's not forget that, yes, there's that automatic relegation for the bottom 4 spots if you aren't a captain. But there's also from the 25th spot to the 48th spot or 25th spot down, any of those guys are optional.
Yeah, which is a weird – that to me just seems like kind of a backdoor opportunity to kind of like shove somebody out if, say, there's like a team problem or if a personality difference, which is good to have those kind of clauses, right? Because you need to be able to get rid of people that aren't helpful.
And you know what's relevant there?
What?
Who's in the 25th spot? Who's on this cusp right now out of the top 24?
Matty Wolff.
Insane, dude. So this guy, remember the news was he's switching teams, and then a few weeks later or whatever, he's not switching teams again. So it's like, take Wolfie? Nope, we don't want to take him back. That's not a good sign.
Not only that, guys, Matty Wolff has still not been reclaimed or re-mentioned or added on the Smash GC Twitter page. I know that sounds petty AF, but when your own team is not claiming you, and immediately after that third round or second round at DC, he got removed from that tag as being like the Smash GC is at Brooks Koepka, at Chase Koepka, at Jason Kokrak, no Matty Wolff. And Matty Wolff does have a Twitter. And so to see that removed and then see it not return is very telling of where that locker room atmosphere is right now.
So I think we both agree that in terms of the most disappointing performance this year or player, Matty Wolff. Let's go to the top and work our way down in terms of the most impressive and improved. There's one name that stands out, and it has to be one name only.
Free the Gooch. We had high expectations for this guy, right? A lot of us thought after seeing how he played with the Aces last year, this guy was going to be in the conversation. He might have had a weekend. He was going to be somebody that was looking for an opportunity to get a win. I don't think any of us, if you would have told us 6 months ago, hey, 8 events in, Taylor Gooch, 3 wins, batting 37% on winning. Would you take that?
No, I always thought it was still the old order of Bryson, Reed, DJ, Koepka. Those guys were hoarded up, but it was an interesting year so far because you had Danny Lee and Charles Howell III coming strong out of the gates. You had Brendan Steele in a playoff. You know what I mean? It was a situation where you didn't know how it was going to stabilize, and then here the stabilizing factors actually free the Gooch, Taylor Gooch, 3 wins out of the 8 events so far. And, with 6 events left, he may have another 2 or 3 in him. There's no ceiling on this guy's potential now, apparently, on LIV Golf.
There is none. And I think the format just works out so well for him. It really does. It gives him an opportunity to, if he's not playing great that day, he's not down on himself, focusing on himself. He's just zoning out in the groove, in the vibe, because he's a vibe player. And he's somebody who's on a great team to vibe with. That Range Goat squad is all vibes. It's all vibes and thrives, man, because you got Harold Varner III, also a winner this year. We've got Bubba Watson, a total just bro. I mean, you got three guys with Gooch that are just vibing out there. And when you have the vibes, you can make some things happen. Taylor Gooch has been super impressive this season. And, you know, I had high expectations for him. And for him to have just shattered those is insane. Insane.
Where is Bubba Watson on the individual standings list?
He is 32 right now.
All right, that's totally acceptable in terms of like.
It is. Remember, he's returning from an injury. He's not one of the young guys out there. He's not one of the old guys, but he's not one of the young guys. And to me, again, because remember, LIV Golf does not differentiate. Does not. If you tie for fifth place, they find a way to sort you from, you know, every single player is ranked down. So there is no 8 guys getting 5th place points in an event. So some of these guys have had better finishes than what they actually showcase to be, but because of whatever tiebreakers that we don't understand, we're not actually getting those points for like 5th place or whatever. So there are times when you see a situation like that that's like, oh, this guy got this ranking. He actually did better in that event. So in my opinion, because of that, when a player is between like the 35 to like 25 range, or even like 25, like 15 down to 35, to me is not a problem, right? It's the ones that are like below that where we start seeing the real gaps in player quality.
Now, in terms of second on the individual point standing list, you got Brooks Koepka, who, if you really think about it, still is having the best year of any LIV golf player, considering he won the PGA Championship, finished tied for second in the Masters. It's obviously, you're going to say, not necessarily most improved, but just the best season.
Best season overall. And it's hard to say that because, you know, Gooch has been playing lights out in the LIV specific circuit. But, you know, you got to remember there's the majors. And, you know, Taylor Gooch did get shunned to the majors, so we don't know exactly how that would have played out. But we get it. Brooks Koepka, 2 major championships where he just played lights out, was in the featured group, was in the final group, won one, finished second in one, where he only got lost because he got iced out like crazy because Patrick Cantlay wanted to take 85 minutes per shot, and they won't actually penalize you, unlike LIV, where Slugger White penalized Richard Bland this past week.
Richard Bland took 84 seconds, something like that, after being warned. You brought it on yourself. This needs to happen more.
Well, and he wasn't fighting it, and I don't blame him for it. It looked like a tough shot. That group was already on the clock, and it was Sergio's group, which Sergio's group historically has been on every tournament, like one of the groups that's being watched, because Sergio's historically been a very non-deliberate player. Very, you know, he's the guy who had the 85 waggles back in the day, you know, where they would be over him for a shot, and they're like, I don't know when he's going to hit. and I love Sergio, but thankfully he fixed that. But the point is that that's a group that's usually going to be on the clock. And sadly, I don't know if Richard Bland was the person who got them on the clock, but once you're on the clock, you got to play. You got to play fast. And he lost it.
I'm going to throw this out there. Number 3 on the list, Cameron Smith. I'm going to throw a D out there in terms of disappointing year.
Man, that's not fair, though, because I understand what you're saying, because you think he would have won a tournament by now. But remember, he was in a playoff. Okay, he was in a playoff.
Did he win that playoff? Did he win that playoff?
No, he did not win the playoff. I get it. But remember, his team is the disappointment. Okay? That's where the problem is. It's not him, it's the team. If his team was holding and rallying together around him and being able to help him, because his team hasn't won a podium finish at all. You do realize that, right? Like his team is just like struggling to get even like near 3rd place.
I realize that, but remember, this is the guy who won the Players Championship and the Open, shooting, I think he shot like a 30 on the back 9 of the Open. The guy has the game. He's probably one of the top 7 players in the world. Doesn't get a win on LIV. Isn't crushing it in the majors either.
Whoa. He's in the top 25 of all 3 majors this year. He finished top 25 in all 3 majors this year so far. And not only that, look, okay, we knew he was going to do bad. I thought he was going to do way worse in Adelaide. I really did, because the host captain is usually one of the players that struggles the most, like, or the host player. So like Gooch in Tulsa, I knew he was going to play bad that week because he was doing like 18 hosting events that week instead of actually practicing and playing. And he played bad. Cameron Smith found a way while all that hosting events to still finish fourth in Adelaide. And that's according to the points division. It may have gotten higher up. I don't remember off the top of my head, but you get the point. He's playing good golf. And yeah, he hasn't won a tournament yet, but he's not disappointing at all. He's just getting outplayed. It's kind of like Rory McIlroy. Rory McIlroy is playing great golf for the most part. He's just getting outplayed. That major championship where Cameron Smith beat him, the Open Championship last year, Rory McIlroy played to win, but he just got lapped.
That's true. I mean, I'm not going to argue with there. It's just in terms of our expectations, knowing Cameron Smith's potential. If he's not winning at least once a year, it's a disappointing year.
So I'm guessing you're saying that for this to have been the narrative year that would have made sense for LIV Golf, if you reverse Cam Smith and Taylor Gooch's entire season, where they both flip-flop seasons, we have a picturesque planned LIV season. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. You got to think the guys that are doling out the $100 million contracts to are the guys that are kind of thinking, you're also going to win. You're going to be the face of the tour. Who's the face of LIV Golf right now?
Probably it's tough because I would say it's a mixture between Brooks Koepka, Cam Smith, and Dustin Johnson, and Phil Mickelson somehow. Even though Phil Mickelson's not really in playing form, he's still got the celebrity status enough to be able to carry them up there. So it's those four guys who are kind of the face of LIV.
I think if you win 3 of the last, 5 tournaments?
You should be
You're the face. Right. You've taken over. I mean, you just became the guy who this guy is the champion of the LIV Tour. You've got 3 wins. The next 2 closest people are the next ones with 2 wins are Dustin Johnson and Brooks Koepka. They have 2 wins each. And now let's go project into LIV London. With our knowledge, with the way it's going right now, who do you see winning LIV London?
Brandon Grace or Charles Schwartzel?
That Charles Schwartzel pick is ridiculous. Please pick a series. Please pick another.
Hey, he's the returning champion at Centurion. Okay. Brandon Grace, though, I'm being serious. I think he could possibly do it. Those guys both played really good at that event. And so I know that's kind of a left field thing for me to say both of those guys, but Charles Schwartzel's playing the best golf that he's playing way better than he was last season. He really is. He actually qualified for the Open Championship today. Him and Brandon Grace both qualified. So honestly, I really do. I think that those 2 guys are solid picks, and they're both playing at above expectations, in my opinion, for both of them. I never expected Charles Schwartzel to win a tournament on LIV, and he won the very first one. Granted, that was the weakest field LIV ever had, but he's been up in the standings on several of these events and actually found good form.
I'm going, to me, the 2 obvious choices. Brooks Koepka, using this as prep for the Open, aka in the States called the British Open, because we also have our own Open, and Taylor Gooch, because the dude wins in pairs. He won back-to-back before. Take a little hiatus. Boom, you're back to back.
I think you got a good point there. Don't get me wrong. They're playing in London, so this is, like I said, this is prep for Open Championship time. We could see Cam Smith finally break through and get that win that he's been looking for this season. Understand, he's someone who has that game to play in those windy conditions that happen out there. Now, London is not quite the Scotland courses, but there's still a lot of the same components. And so, honestly, I think we could see a Cam Smith or a Taylor Gooch win. So when I'm saying Charles Schwartzel, Brandon Grace, I'm just saying that's who I'm keeping my eye on that you might not necessarily keep your eye on this week. Because Brandon Grace is one of those silent assassins that always seems to be up there around the top of the leaderboard, and nobody seems to really give him any clout or respect or notice. And the dude just finds a way to play through injuries, abdominal tears, all kinds of baloney that these guys – because if you look at Stinger GC, they are the most banged up team out there as far as collective injuries, and yet they are some effing warriors.
I have some video of Taylor Gooch from LIV Tucson. He was hitting out of the rocks. It was kind of not noteworthy at that time, but at that time, he hadn't won yet on LIV. I'm expecting Free the Gooch Mania to continue dominating. I want him to win so that Zach Johnson cannot deny him.
Okay, you're right. I would very much like to see him win either here or at the Greenbrier. I think he'll do better at Greenbrier than he will in London, but he could win. But if he wins one of those next two events, yeah, all of a sudden the heat under Zach Johnson becomes, well, too much to handle.
I'm going to also say the heat becomes a fire.
Mm-mm. It's volcanic eruption time, and we're getting ready to go full Vesuvius on your ass, Zach Johnson.
Folks, what do you think at home? Get in the comments section. Do you think the Gooch is going to go for his 4th win this year? Hit us up, subscribe, share, and like, and check out Jake Span Golf on YouTube. Peace.
YouTube's second hottest golf channel.
Kind of.